All right, recording set. This is for the Microsoft Excel project practice final exam lesson. Okay, let's all get into Teams, please. I'm going to share my screen with you. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so in Teams, there's that assignment posted. The first thing I want you guys to do, please, is to click on the link that says web page for film data. Pop into that web page. It's going to open up in the browser a web page that looks like this called the numbers. Okay, and what you'll see here as you scroll down is that we have a listing of the top grossing movies, meaning like the movies that made the most money in the year 2019. This is actual real life data that we're going to use today, and we're going to import into an Excel spreadsheet. We're going to organize and analyze this information. I thought it would be kind of fun to do something like this that's like relevant, interesting data. Okay, and again, the steps that we go through today, almost exactly like what your final exam will be like. All right, the next thing on this posting here in Teams is the instruction sheet with the step-by-step for this project. I'm going to do this with you. So if you don't even want to open up the actual written instructions and just follow along with me, that is fine. It's your choice, but these are here if you want to have them open at the same time. Thirdly, I need you to open up Excel and open a blank document, a brand new, fresh blank document. I'm going to interrupt myself here for a second. If you guys need me to slow down, repeat, anything like that, please just unmute yourself and speak up as soon as you can, okay? I don't want you falling too far behind. But you really need to stay with me because there are about, 40 steps we're going to go through today. Okay, we have a blank workbook open here. We're going to rename this. First thing, before we even get started, let's rename it. What does it say? Your last name, movie project. So save as in your OneDrive, and you'll name it your last name, movie project. All right, once you have that saved, we're all good to go with that workbook. We'll sit there for a sec while I introduce this project to you. Okay, so what we're doing today, you're going to be collecting real data regarding recent film releases, information regarding them, and their gross revenues to organize and analyze relevant information. At the end of this project, you will have one, learned, actually practiced because you've already done this before, the highest, averaged, lowest, and combined revenues for the films. You're going to be able to answer the question, how many films in the top 20 fall into each genre? And you'll answer the question within each production distributor, what was the gross revenue per genre? Okay, if you guys remember when we did the lessons on like pivot tables and pivot charts, it always started with a question because when you're analyzing data, the whole point really is that you're asking yourself a question and you're trying to pull in the information, the values into different fields so it could be displayed in a way that you could easily make sense of it. Okay, so today's two questions were how many films in the top 20 fall into each genre? And you know what genres are in movies? It's like action, adventure, horror movies, comedies, romance movies. And then also, thank you, Matt. Also, we're going to ask ourselves, okay, within each of these production distributor companies, like Disney, DreamWorks, yada, yada, yada. What was the gross revenue per genre? Okay, so we're going to take apart our list and look at the different distribution companies and then break them into the genre types of movies they had and then see what the revenues were in each of those. Okay, so let's set the scene here. I like to always play make believe, right? Why would we look at this kind of information? Well, let's pretend that you work for a major film production company and you've been assigned the important task of deciding which kinds of films might make the most money for your company this year. In order to make these projections for the types of films you're going to invest in, you need to make educated analyses based on last year's data and revenue trends. All right, so long story short, you need to decide what movies you're going to put out this year for your company. But instead of just picking whatever you think you like the best, you want to base it off of what the trends are and what people are spending money to see so that you can have the best shot at making money. Okay, this project is split up into like 4 sections, 5 sections. The first section, we're just going to set up the document, the Excel document, so that it's ready to be worked on. Okay. The second part is entering the data. The next part, we're going to make an analysis. We're going to use some functions. And then the last 2 sections will be pivot tables and a pivot chart. Okay, so we're going to start off pretty simple, but you just need to get it all set up so your worksheet looks correct. Okay, so here we go. We're in our blank workbook. Let's look at this Excel doc. The first thing you want to do, it says in cell A1, you're going to type in all caps, size 14 font, and it could be any font. Your default is fine. In bold, type the words top 20 grossing films 2019. In A1, all caps, size 14, bold font. Top 20. Top 20 what? Whoa. Where did the assignment go? Sorry, guys, I lost it. Top 20 grossing films 2019. All right, so I'm in all caps, bold, size 14. Top 20 grossing films 2019 and cell A1. Step 2. It's actually 3 on here. We're going to merge and center our cells A1 through G1. A1 through G1. So I'm going to click on A1, hold Shift on my keyboard, and click on G1. To merge and center, meaning I'm going to make this like one long cell and center the words, I am in my home ribbon, alignment group, and there's the little icon here. If you hover over it, it says merge and center. Click on that, and now it's just one nice big cell centered over the top. Next, we are going to start putting in some like column headers for a table we're creating. So if you see in the instructions here, we're working across row 3. We're going to go in A3, B3, C3, D3, E, and F, and G. Okay, so we're going to type these words as the titles there in those cells. So in A3, in all caps, type rank. To the right of that, in B3, type film. To the right of that, put an X. This will make sense later. In D3, type distributor. In E3, type genre. In F3, total profits. And in G3, an X. If you click somewhere off of where we just typed, you guys can notice how some of your words like distributor and total profits got cut off. Anytime this is happening, remember that you click on this top left wedge, and that will select the entire worksheet. And you want to go into your format menu and auto fit your column width, meaning like the width across a cell will grow or shrink so it fits to the text within. Okay, but one thing in our instructions, it said that it wanted all of those titles to be in all caps, size 14, bold. So what I'm going to do now that I typed them all in is highlight them, change my font to 14, make it bold, cut stuff off again. What do? Go to the wedge, format, auto fit column width. This is what we got. Are you with me?
Can you do that again?
Which part? Like, do you have the words typed?
Yeah.
Okay, so if the words are all typed, you're going to select all these cells, A3 through G3. Make sure you change the font size to be 14 and make it bold. Stop. And if it's all cut off, remember, we click on the wedge and go into format and always select to auto fit column width. All right, next, we finished the setup. It's time to insert the data. You guys have already opened up the website, right? So go into your web browser to the website with all of these movies. Kind of interesting to look through them too, right? I'm laggy. Okay, so we're only going to be looking at movies ranked 1 through 20. I want to select all of this information from this rank number 1 all the way through the tickets sold after Aquaman number 20. So to do this, I have to click my mouse somewhere and hold over to the left of the number 1. So like over here, if I click and hold, and then I start to drag diagonally down, I want to go all the way through so that I have through number 20 all of these columns and rows of information selected. Again, to do that, I clicked and held my mouse somewhere to the left of the number 1. Click and hold. Then drag down diagonally until you get to the side here of number 20. Aquaman's tickets sold. Once it's all selected, we're going to use our keyboard shortcut to copy, which is Control C. Control C, go back to your spreadsheet and put your cursor in A4 right under rank. Put it in A4, so A4 is highlighted. And don't freak out, it's going to look weird, but we're going to fix it. Do a Control V to paste all that information. Control V. It should have pasted down this first A column here all the rank numbers 1 through 20. And then in B column under film, all the film names, and yeah, they look horrible right now, but don't worry, we're going to fix it. And so on, all the way across here. Now, maybe in column G, the money amounts might just be showing up as a hashtag for you guys. Anytime in Excel, if you see a hashtag in a column going down, what it means is that that column is too skinny to show all the information. We don't even need to worry about this now, but if I were to grow this, the width here, it would end up showing me the numbers. Okay, so if you ever are like, oh my gosh, what happened to all my data? It turned into hashtags. You just have to widen the cell and everything would show up. Okay, we don't need to worry about that because in fact, what we're going to do in a couple steps is delete these columns that have the X's anyway. We're not even going to use those. Okay, guys, so we just did our data entry. We found the website, we copied it, and we pasted the film data in. Okay, what we need to do next is step 4 here. We're going to click on cell A4 and remove the link. So all of these things here that are blue with underlines are actually like internet links. If you were to click on it, it would bring you back to the web page again. We don't want to have to do that. So here's how we're going to remove the link. This is tricky though. Watch. First, I want to click on cell A4. A4, where the number 1 is. If I were to click right here in B4, honestly, like it would bring me to the link. It's too hard to get there. So if you click with your mouse on A4 and then use your keyboard arrow to move over to B4, much better choice. From here, now that I have cell B4 active, I'm going to go to the Insert Ribbon menu. I'm going to go to link. I'm going to click on the icon, not the drop down. Click on the link icon, not the drop down. And when you get this pop up over here, you see it says remove link. That's what you want to click, is to remove the link. And you'll notice now on our worksheet that cell, the film name Avengers is no longer a link. It's just black letters. Okay. What we have to do next is to copy that formatting on all the rest of these blue text. So the way that I can do that easily, I'm going to go back to my home ribbon menu. Make sure that B4 is outlined selected. And over here on the left of your ribbon is this paintbrush, the Format Painter. And what the Format Painter will do is magically copy any formatting that we made to this cell wherever you drag this paintbrush over. So if I click and drag on this Lion King B5 cell, click and hold and drag all the way down over all of this blue stuff, and I release, it gets rid of the links. I'm going to go back to B4 again so that I could copy the formatting and do it to these 3 little columns here across the row because I couldn't get those all in one. So if I go back to B4, click the paintbrush, click and drag across, I'll get rid of all those links. Now it's weird on my computer, the link is still there. Like if you're hovering over the word, you're still going to get to the link, even though we clicked remove link. It's very obnoxious. I don't know why it's doing that, but we're just going to make sure you don't click on the actual words. If you need to select a cell, make sure that you are to the side of the text so that your cross is like this heavy white cursor. Okay, so now we have no more blue. Let's do another auto fit column width so we could see all of the text correctly. So go to your wedge up top and in your format, auto fit your column width. Are you with me? Madison, if that happened, that means that you're not exactly clicking in the right spot on the web page. Make sure that you click and hold just to the left of the number 1 and drag it diagonally across the text. It should only be highlighting in blue the actual text You just have to make sure that you're getting a selection on that. Okay, all right, we look like this. We're good. Let's see what's the next thing we need to do here. We just did 4 and 5. Okay, the next step here is number 6. We're going to select all the cells in our kind of table data area here down column A. So cells A3 through A23, and align this center aligned. So now I'm just working with this information here on like my data entry table section. I'm going to click on A3, scroll down to A23, hold shift and click on A23. In alignment, center align, so that now that's all neatly placed right down the middle of the column. The next thing we need to do is center the rest of those column headers in cells B3 through G3. In B3, shift G3, go into your alignment and find your center align. All right, this is what I was mentioning earlier. We put those X column headers in because that's actually data we're not going to use in our analysis. We're going to just completely delete the columns C and G. So if we go on here and we want to select C, you're going to hover over the column label, C, and click on it so the whole thing gets selected. And now we want to also select G, but we have to use a keyboard key so that we can select non-adjacent columns. It's not shift. If I held shift and clicked, it would select all of those. That's not what we want, right? We just want C and G. So do you remember what keyboard button I have to click? Control. I saw Maddie K said it. All right, so you're going to hold Control on your keyboard and click G. So you should have C column and G column selected. And you could just right click and go to delete. We don't need those guys anymore. So now we're seeing our data. We have the rankings of the movies, the names of the films, the production company that, put the movie out, the genres of the movies, and the total profits all listed. I mean, just what we have here would be plenty if you wanted to really analyze the data, but I mean, it's not really clearly laid out. We know from working in Excel that we can make tables and charts and filter and sort things so that it makes better sense in a more efficient manner, okay? So let's get going here. All right, the next step. We're going to do a couple more little cute formatting things to make it look nice, okay? We're going to select cell A1, which was the title at the top, and we're going to place a thick bottom border on that cell. So if I select A1 in my fonts group, if I go to the borders, I want to come down and find thick bottom border. Thick bottom border. And now it has this nice little line under it. Isn't that lovely?
Miss Moss,
Yes.
where do I find the borders?
If you have that cell A1 selected, it's in your home ribbon. And this font group here towards the left of your ribbon, it's this little icon that looks like a checkbox. If you go to the down arrow, thick bottom border is about halfway down the list.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome, Gabs. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is do some more kind of like little border lines to make it look fancy. I'm going to select cell A3 where it says rank. And I'm going to scroll down to A23, hold shift and select. So I have just this whole section here, A3 through A23. And in my borders, I'm going to pick right border. So if you click off, you'll see that now there's a right little border line on that ranking column. We're going to do the same thing to the film section. So I'm going to click on B3, scroll down to B23, hold shift, click. And since the right border was the last option I executed, I don't even have to go into the drop down. It's already right here. I could just click it and then it automatically inserts that border. I accidentally just clicked on Walt Disney and it opened up the web page. You see how that happened? Try to not click on the text. If you need to select a cell, click to the side of the text so that you're just picking up this cursor, okay? Okay, the next thing. 2 more steps in the data entry section. We want to make all of that section we just created into an actual table. Remember, there's a difference. Like I can do some work with this data just as it sits here, but if I create a table or format it as a table, I'll get the options to filter and sorting is a lot easier, okay? So to create a table or format this as a table, I need to select the data first. The data range is cell A3, so click on A3. Scroll down so you can see like your bottom row here, which is 23. Hold shift and click on E23. So you have this whole thing selected here. A3, click. Hold shift, click E23. In your home ribbon menu, just right of center, there's an option that says Format as Table. You can pick any design that you like. And when asked in the pop-up, make sure that you have yes checked off. My table has headers because we typed in these lovely headers, and those will be useful when we create our pivot tables. So if you have that checkbox selected, you could say okay, and there you go. Now we've got a lovely table. I can't see everything, so I'm going to do my usual click the wedge, format, and auto fit my column width. It just looks fabulous, doesn't it? And that, my friends, was the data entry. There's one last thing that we're going to change, and this is just as a point for me to make sure when I'm grading this that you're doing everything. We're going to sort the films alphabetically. Okay, right now, all of these films are sorted by rank. I want to change that. So I'm going to go to the drop down in my table under film, and let's sort it A to Z. That puts Aladdin at the top, which is rank number 8. Then Aquaman, Avengers, okay? So now we have an alphabetized list here as opposed to just by rank number. How are you guys? Are you with me? Following along. Okay, we're getting next into using formulas and functions.
Miss Moss,
Yes.
when I try to do like the table and stuff, my entire document just went to Avengers Endgame, and now like all of it's the same.
I would do a Control Z to undo whatever you just did there.
I tried Control Z and like nothing happened. Like it just kept highlighting stuff.
Move your cursor into like a different cell.
Okay.
And Control Z, will it go back?
No. Wait, no. I got it. But
Okay.
now I
To
lost
make
everything.
a table now, you're gonna here, let me get back on here. You're gonna click on your rank cell, which was A3,
Yeah, and
hold
then
shift and click on E23.
format as table, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, guys, we're gonna do our first little bit of analysis here. To do this, we're gonna create like a little side table. This reminds me of that one module we did when it was like the summer camp list, and how there was like that little additional information side table where it had like the people who had food allergies and stuff. So we're going to make a little side table on this spreadsheet on the same tab. Okay. So where am I at here? That would be this one. Analysis number 1, we're going to look at the revenue data. So if I'm just like looking at these instructions overall right now, I see that I'm going to be trying to find out the highest revenue, the average, the lowest, and then the total. Okay, so I'm going to make myself a little table on here in these cells and then use my functions to find this data. Okay, so let's start here. We're going to go into cell B30 and type the words in all caps, highest revenue. So I'm going to come down to B30. I'm not even going to deal with the font yet. Everything, just make sure you're in caps lock and type highest revenue. Go down one. The next is average revenue. Then lowest revenue. And then finally, total revenue. All right, these are the 4 different data points I'm going to use functions to find. Okay, but first I want to change the font on these. I'm going to select all 4 and change my font size to 14, like the instructions indicated, and make it bold. Lavishly. The Biltmore house is decorated lavishly, and the gardens are meticulously pruned. That means it's decorated super fancy, and the gardens, like the outside, is perfectly landscaped.
So would it be this one?
Yes. All right, sorry, I was helping a 4th grader. Okay, so the next step after we typed in those little headings, we want to select the range of cells B30 through C33. So B30, hold shift, C33. So I'm going to deal with this little rectangle of space here. This is going to be my little breakout table. Up here in my fonts again, in the borders, I'd like you guys to click all borders. So now we have lines in between all of these cells. And I want you to go back into borders and also select thick outside border. If you click off of it now, you can see like this is a very nice and neat little break off table here with a thick outside border and all borders on the inside. Let's work some magic. Let's automate this guy. Let's get some math done. Okay, so the first function I want to use, we're going to Funky Town, people. The highest revenue. Remember what I first enter into a cell when I want to insert a function or a formula? Equals. In your formulas ribbon. I don't know if this is going to happen to you, but it's been happening to me today for some reason. I think it has something to do with the copying and pasting of all this data above. But it's making me click on things twice. Hopefully this wouldn't happen in real life. But anyways, We'll go with it today. So if I'm in my formulas ribbon menu and I go to my auto sum dropdown, because I know that's where like the frequently used functions can be found, the highest revenue function would be max. So I have to do it twice. All right, and my data range, because I'm talking about revenues, which is the total profits, right? My data range is E4 through E23. And I'm just going to manually type it in. E4 colon E23. Remember, a colon is like what's in a time on a clock, not a semicolon that has a comma at the bottom. It needs to just be the two dots. So my function to find the highest revenue is equal sign max parentheses E4 colon E23 close parentheses. Boom. Highest revenue, $858,373,000. It's crazy. Let's insert a function here to find the average revenue. Based off of the top 20, what were they averaging? Start with my equal sign. In my AutoSum dropdown, frequently used function called average. Whoops. Okay. I'm going to change my cell range again to be E4 through E23. And the average revenue on all of the movies in 2019 and the top 20 were $299,444,143. Can you figure out how to do the lowest and the total or sum revenue on your own? Try it out. All right, guys, so to find the lowest, I'm going to do my equal sign. Min is the function. I'm going to do my cell range. And then the total function name would be sum. Enter your cell range again. Wow, look at how much money made by movies. Just the top 20 movies in 2019. I mean, that's insane. $5 billion, almost $6 billion. Billions and billions of dollars, folks. All right, so it turns out that we just finished analysis number 1, looking at our revenue data and placing it into a little breakout table. That is lovely. We're going to now move on unless you have questions. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Is there another question, Ann?
I'm just staying here just in case.
Okay. All right, guys. So now we're moving on to our pivot tables. And we're going to create a pivot chart with our second pivot table. But remember, these begin with a question.
Miss
Okay?
Moss.
Yes.
Sorry, I was a little bit late on asking the question, but whenever I try and like enter the value for the average, it comes up as like the hashtag and then value in all caps.
Okay, so remember, hashtags means that the cell is not wide enough to show the data. So you're going to want to select your wedge at the top left corner and go into your home ribbon, format, autofit column width. Or what may have happened
Okay.
for you, Bruno, is that you didn't put the correct cell range. So make sure that your average function that you put in was equals average E4 through E23.
Okay. So,
And it should be 299,444,143.
Formula. It still says like value.
Okay, user
'Cause
error,
when I-
buddy. We'll come back
when
to
I-
that later. I want to keep moving on. We'll do that at the end. All right. Okay.
All right.
Next, let's answer this question: how many films are in each genre within the top 20? So when we looked at our data up here, I mean, we see this whole column of genres, and there are just like 5 different ones. But I want to make a pivot table out of this, so that I could just get an easy count without having to go through sorting and counting in my head. Go ahead and put your cursor on any cell on this table up top. Make sure you don't click on the word because you're going to get linked to a web page. If you do, just close and come back. Click on any cell, and we're going to go to Insert in our ribbon, and the very far left icon for Pivot Table. Remember, when we do that, it's going to give you this pop-up and be like, yeah, do you want to open it on a new worksheet? Blah, 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 blah. Yes. Okay. We do want to do that. So now we opened up a new worksheet called Sheet 2. And we have our pivot table fields, which once we start to activate, we'll get a cute little pivot table over here. Again, our question was, how many films are in each genre? This is tricky, guys. So we know I'm working with a genre, right? So I'm going to pull the genre down into rows. So in my pivot table now, I have my 5 genres listed, or 4 genres. I thought there were 5. Do you have 5 or 4? Okay. All right, so I have my genres. Now to find out the values, right, like how many, I want to get a count of how many are in each genre. This is weird, and I don't think we did this before in our modules, but what you're going to want to do is pull genre again, a second time, down into the values field, because that will give us the count of each genre. So not only am I using the row label here of the different genres, but I'm also pulling genre into values to get a count of how many in each. Cool. So now you can see over here we have like action, adventure, horror, thriller, suspense, and the numbers of each are listed to make up our total of 20 movies. On your final, I'm kind of going to give you an answer right now. So on your final, you gave me that information about like what pets you like and yada, yada, yada. Okay, that's what will be on your spreadsheet in your table. I might ask you guys to analyze like how many people prefer the different types of pets. So to do that, it would be like what we just did now. You would insert a pivot table, and you would pull pets into the field for rows and pull pets into the values to get the count of each of those different types of pets, how many people like them. Do you get it? There's a final answer for you, so thank you for staying tuned. Okay, next. That's actually all that we needed to do. Oh no, there's something else I wanted to do. We're going to click on the row labels filter arrow. So on this pivot table, let's click on this row labels filter arrow. I would like you guys to go to more sort options. The instructions want us to list these here in a descending order, meaning like, so the highest number's at the top and it goes lower, lower, lower. So at a glance, I'd be able to see really quickly who had the most, who had the least, just on a table. To do that, I'm going to click on this descending option. And I want not alphabetically descending the genres. I want the count of the genre to be descending. Say OK, and it will sort them. So now we can see who had the highest and the lowest really quickly. All right. So our next step is we're going to rename that worksheet tab genre counts. And then we're going to change the tab color to be gold accent 4. So remember one way to do this. We can, down here on sheet 2, right click and go to rename. And I'm just going to type it right in, genre counts. So I changed the name by right clicking, going to rename. And it wanted me to change the color to gold accent 4. So if I right click and go to tab color, on my swatches, I will hover over until I find gold accent 4, which happens to be the top default gold. When you're on that worksheet, like you're on that tab, it's not as easy to see that you changed the color. It's sort of there in kind of like an ombre view. But like if you were to click back on sheet 1, you could see clearly that the genre counts tab worksheet is now in that gold color. All right, you're doing awesome. We have one more step. You guys are going to get out early, I think. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is ask ourselves a pretty intense question here. It's multiple steps. Within each distributor, I want to know what the amount of revenue was per genre. So in each of these different production companies, I want to see the genre types of movies that they created and then how much revenue they made in each of those genres. Okay, I'm going to first create a pivot table and then end up making a pivot chart. So I need to go back into sheet 1 where all the original data is. I'm starting fresh on a new pivot table, so I got to go back to my original table. Click on any cell. Insert pivot table. It's going to ask you a new sheet. Yeah, I do want a new sheet. So I get a new worksheet tab called sheet 3. And there's nothing there yet because I haven't pulled any of my labels down into the fields. The question, in each distributor, what were the total profits by genre? Let's pull distributor down into rows. So now we're seeing a beginning here. Here are the 5 different distributors, the companies who produced the movies. I want to know the total profits. Well, that, the revenue, it's numbers, it's money. It makes sense that that would be pulled down into the values because values are, numbers. So far, what I'm looking at here, distributors, how much each of them made in total. But I want to break that down further. I want to know the different genres, how much they made in those different genres. I'm going to pull genre to column. This is what I get. I can go through and say, all right, Disney, they had action, adventure, only action and adventure movies. That was it. And this is how much they made in each of those. Action was the biggest, probably when, like Star Wars and some of the Marvel stuff was out, right? Okay, this is a good start, but it's still a little bit confusing to analyze because it's all just kind of cramped together. This is when a pivot chart would be a fantastic idea. Let's see what we need to do here. We're going to go to the insert menu. As long as you're selected somewhere on this chart, or I'm sorry, on this table, you have one cell on the pivot table selected. You're going to go to insert and go to pivot chart. And I want you to pick in the columns group the 3D stacked column. Select the 3D stacked column and say OK. Boom. Now we're looking here, our production distributing companies. you'd see that Disney just killed it, right? But it's interesting. They killed it with only 2 different types of movies. And here Warner Brothers had like 4 different types of movies that went out, but they didn't even get halfway to what Disney did. So that's telling me something, like you don't need to have a wide variety of options to make a lot of money. Lionsgate, it's like they didn't even try. Just ways to look at this data and make decisions, okay? So the next step after we created that 3D stacked column, I want you guys to go into the Design Context Specific menu for the chart. So the chart is selected. We'll go into the Design Ribbon menu. And in our chart styles, select Style 6, which is kind of like my go-to favorite. I like this like charcoal background. I think the contrast is really kind of cool. So we'll select Style 6. The next thing I want to do, I want to go to my quick layouts, and I'm going to change the layout because this doesn't have a nice heading title on it. And I like when my charts have a title. So I'm going to go into quick layouts and select layout 1. My instructions are asking me to name the chart title or rename the chart title to this kind of long name here. I'm going to copy and paste it, but you might have to type it out. Just copy off of what I put here, please. Whoops. So we know that this chart, when we're presenting it, is the distributor to genre to revenue breakdown. Almost done, almost done. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're going to now move that chart so it's on its own worksheet. Remember how to move it so it has its own tab and it's not cramped up here on top of this pivot table? Make sure your pivot chart is selected and you're in the Design Context Specific menu. Go to Move Chart that's on the right side. We're going to go to a new sheet. And we're going to rename it. We can do it right here. Instead of having to go back later and right click and rename, we could rename it right now when we're moving it. And the instructions want us to name it Pivot Chart. Easy. Pivot Chart. Then say OK. And boom, we have a new tab at the bottom that has only our beautiful pivot chart. Final instruction. Can't believe we made it. We're going to change that worksheet tab color to be green accent 6. So our pivot chart tab, right click on it, go to tab color.
How do you move the chart?
You had to have selected it on the page, the sheet that you were on, and in the Design Context Specific ribbon menu up top, you go to the Move Chart icon, which is all the way on the right of the ribbon. And then you select the bubble next to New Sheet. Name that new sheet Pivot Chart. Change the tab color to green accent 6. In the end, you guys should have 4 tabs at the bottom of your workbook. You should have genre counts, and it should be gold. Pivot chart should be green. Sheet 3 is only the pivot table of our final analysis. And then sheet 1 is the original table. Holy Moses, you did it. That's what your final exam is going to be like. The only difference is actually, to be honest, in the instructions, like when I ask you the question, I don't give you the step-by-step on how to put together a pivot table. So like if the question is how many people prefer the different types of pets, I'm not going to say pull pets into the rows, pull pets into the values. That's the part that you just need to figure out and know how to do. All right. Do a nice quick insurance save on your whole workbook here with the 4 tabs. Add this to Teams. I'm going to give you guys a nice chunk of points for doing this. And really, I feel like you can go back to this assignment post in Teams, and like this is sort of a study guide for you on how to do the Excel final, because it will be almost exactly identical, just using different data with different types of questions, right? Who has questions?
Like when I had to redo the chart, like I got lost so much, and I kept trying to put in the value, and it still says like that same message about like with the hashtag and the value.
Okay, so you typed in equal sign, all caps, type, you forgot to type in average, right?
I typed in average.
Okay, then parentheses E4 colon E23.
Yeah. But then like now it says like I spilled my results, and now it's like a huge line of numbers like in the cells.
That is interesting. I don't know. Just turn it in and I'll have to look at it, but somewhere along the line there was a mistake.
Okay.
Anybody else questions? I see a hand up. Who is this? Carter, did you have a question?
Yeah, what do we name it again?
Last name movie project.
No 20?
Nope.
All right.
All right, guys, that's all we got for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to you about what's going to be involved in the Word and PowerPoint finals. Friday, we have fourth period's pretty long as per usual, but we'll have kind of some Q&A about the final, and then Monday you start. All right. If no questions, we could end the call. Don't forget, at 12:30, you come back for Celtic time, and that's posted in your calendars, just like how this has been all along, okay? You guys have a great lunch, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye, Miss Moss.
Bye.